Hello and welcome to Mark's Side of the Ring. I'm your host, Nick Fiorentino, and alongside me we have Fred DeCourt. Fred, how we doing, brother?
Doing good. Glad to be here for another Mark's Side of the Ring.
Yep. So as you could see, it's just the two of us. Miguel had a work emergency, so he's out. But we're in, and we're going to carry it home for him. We're going to be talking all things WrestleMania with the news that just came out this week. Some big news. But before we do, guys, our show will be out Saturday. On YouTube and on iTunes, it'll be out shortly after that. So you can find us on the TruExact Radio Network. On Sharp Bets and Fantasy Sets, we're talking conference championship football with Mr. TruExact himself, Scott. And then we also have on the TruExact Radio show, which will be out tomorrow, which is Friday. We're filming this on Thursday. They have a Staten Island rapper who's coming on and talking all things. So Miguel wanted us to mention next week on Mark's Side of the Ring, we're breaking down the Royal Rumble with our prediction show, which we do before every pay-per-view, so that should be a lot of fun. One shameless plug, if you're not a fan and don't listen to Sharp Bets and Fantasy Sets, we put out a poll on our show, which you could follow at SBFS Show. And the reason I bring it up is because with the Pro Bowl next week, there's not a lot of sports betting in the world of professional football, which is really what our show is all about. So one of the topics that we gave you guys to vote for is Royal Rumble betting, which should be fun. You know, how you bet on the Royal Rumble. If that wins, Miguel and hopefully Fred will come on the show, and we'll talk all things Royal Rumble in terms of, you know, how you can bet the Royal Rumble. We'll give you the sites on where you can bet the Royal Rumble. And obviously, without giving too many spoilers or, you know, any kind of upcoming odds, because really, Fred, and you could speak to this too, WWE's become sharp to the betting world when it comes to their events. And there used to be a time when you couldn't really, you know, their odds were whoever was favored was the one that was going to win the match.
For sure.
That's not the case anymore. Now they almost do it in a way to where they can fool you into thinking. So there's been multiple times, including even last year, where certain guys were the leaders going into the Royal Rumble, only to find out that somebody else won. So just because they're favored doesn't mean that they're the odds-on favorite in the world of storytelling, which is WWE. So
they have the ability to choose who they want at a moment's notice. That night they could change it. Right before they could change it. So that's the thing about wrestling. You know, they control it. So they could do what they want, you know, no matter who the favorite is.
They have to adapt to the times, and they have to adapt to, you know, the changes in the markets in terms of, you know, how easy the dirt sheets and the smart marks like us can get the information of who's going to win. And now in the world of sports betting, which can be done on your phone, they got to be creative when it comes to how they, how they can do that. So without further ado, we'll keep this short. I'm drinking Bud Light Seltzer Lemonade, the brand new Bud Light Seltzer Lemonade. And I know you have your signature screwball?
My signature screwball, yep.
Well, in honor of you, I have one more mini of screwball. So cheers.
Oh, very nice. Cheers. Oh, that's a tasty beverage.
I know some of you at home are wondering, do lemonade and peanut butter go together? They don't.
They don't. That solves that mystery right there.
Not a good combo. But anyway,
maybe if you had a grape flavored, I hate grape flavored things, but maybe with the screwball, it would be all right.
That would work. But to steal a phrase from our co-host, who we miss today, nobody gives a shit what we're drinking. Let's break down WrestleMania. Let's break down the WWE. So the first thing we wanted to talk about was Stephanie McMahon. Obviously, came out just this week and announced that not only, and we'll get into the events and where they're taking place, but not only will WrestleMania be at Raymond James Stadium, where it was supposed to be last year for WrestleMania 36, we're now on to WrestleMania 37. Not only is it going to be at the same event or the same venue it was supposed to be at last year, we're looking at live fans for this event. So, Fred, first and foremost, are we ready for live fans at a professional wrestling event?
You know, it's one of those things. I don't know if we're ready, but I'm ready. I can tell you that much. The fact that WWE wouldn't be the first people to be having live fans at any type of event makes me a little reassured. the fact that certain NFL teams, including the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, have had fans. So, limited fans, obviously. I think they've capped around average 15,000. Obviously, they could fit like 65 or whatever throughout the whole season, and other stadiums also. And then, notwithstanding the Super Bowl in a couple of weeks at Raymond James again, we'll be having select, well, whether it's fans or not, but people will be there. So that makes me feel a little bit better knowing that it won't be the first time ever that we've had a large group of people in the building.
Yeah.
So I think it's time. The wrestling business, this is not even just WrestleMania, but in general, it feeds off the crowd more than any other live sport. You need the fans. And while the Thunderdome has definitely been helpful, way more than, it was during those PC days, which were out of necessity, there's nothing like a live crowd. Now, will it be the same? No, it won't be 70,000 people packing into Raymond James like it was supposed to be last year. But in my opinion, anything is better than nothing. So I don't know if we are ready, but I think it needs to happen.
So you touched on a couple of things that I wanted to mention. First and foremost, So I think that WWE is doing the event at Raymond James Stadium for the exact reason you outlined before, and that's that the Super Bowl is also going to be at Raymond James Stadium. And if they're going to have fans,
Right,
they're going to watch the NFL and see how they do it. Now, WWE has an advantage over the NFL even, in the sense that the NFL will fill the stadium, the bowl itself, with, I believe, 25,000 fans, which is what I've read or what I've heard. Now, to your point, will there be enough sound? Will it be loud enough? You had some offensive linemen, in last week's games in Buffalo from Baltimore. I don't have the guy's name off the top of my head, but blamed some terrible snaps off of how loud the crowd was in Buffalo with only 12,000 people there. So now you're talking about 25,000. That's double the amount. It certainly can drive some sound, but the advantage that WWE has, which I don't think a lot of people thought about, is not only can they fill the bowl, but WWE uses the field.
Oh, yeah.
Part of their stands and their risers. So
a lot of it.
Right. So they can have even more people, or maybe they could fit the 25,000 that the NFL Super Bowl plans on having. They could spread them even further apart, because at the end of the day, they're going to be socially distanced. We all understand that. We understand the world that we live in right now, and this is what we're dealing with. Now, you sent out a Facebook message, which I'm not sure if I liked or not, but I believe I did. It sounds like you're going to WrestleMania this year, or you're at least going to try to go to WrestleMania.
That is the goal. That is the attempt. God willing, I'm able to get my hands on a ticket. I will be there. I was supposed to go last year.
Yep.
That unfortunately didn't happen, and I had gone to every one since WrestleMania 28. So
okay.
It was hard, and the other thing that sucked about it too with last year was like it was so last minute. I mean, we were only like literally 2 weeks out, maybe 3 the most.
Yeah.
I had all the tickets. The hotel was booked. The flight was booked. I was in WrestleMania mode. Like days were in at work. We're leaving for Tampa on this. Like I was buying my merchandise. I had mode. I get into this mode every year, and then it got pulled away like at the last minute. So it sucked, but I wasn't the only one, obviously. So anyway, I was hopeful this year we would have fans at some capacity, and that's how it sounds. We will have it. So I'm excited. Yeah, I will be there.
Does it worry you at all with everything going on, being there with what probably will be people all around the world? I mean, I don't know if all around the world, but all around the country will definitely be at WrestleMania.
So I'll be honest with you. If it wasn't for WrestleMania, I wouldn't do this. I'm risking my health for WrestleMania, as dumb as that sounds. I know it's dumb. And the funny thing about this, so I was on the fence about the vaccine, not to get into any, pro or con on the vaccine. Mm-hmm. I was on the fence. I was like, I'll wait. I'll see how it goes. So that Saturday night, when we found out about WrestleMania, I went on to the vaccine site and I registered for when I'm eligible. I don't even know if I'll be eligible by then, and even if I am, if I'll be able to get an appointment for it, because we know how that's going right now.
Correct.
Just to be safe, I said, the hell with it. I'm going to register for this vaccine. So basically, I decided I'm going to get this vaccine just for WrestleMania. So that tells you how much of a mark I truly am, that I'm willing to get a vaccine just for WrestleMania. But yeah, I mean, I'm willing to take my chance. I mean, I will be careful. Obviously, you know, you have to have your mask on. Like, I was reading also Saturday night, I went into a whole wormhole figuring things out of what Raymond James has been doing for the season and the Super Bowl, what they'll be doing. Obviously, masks are required the whole time you're in the stadium. They're taking advantage of making sure all the entrances and exits are open. Like, they're not just going to have people go through, like, they're all
right.
Open. And apparently, your ticket will tell you need to use this entrance. Again, this is what I've read. I don't know what. Obviously, hand sanitizing stations all throughout. The big thing that I thought was interesting was the contactless payment, no cash payment.
Yeah.
One of the things that they have at Raymond James that they've installed, which I've never even heard of, I don't know if this is a new thing for COVID, it's a reverse ATM. So if you don't have a debit card for whatever reason in 2021, but if you don't, or a credit card, you only have cash, you can put your cash in, and they give you like this Visa temporary like debit card that then you can use at the concession stands and things like that. So no cash throughout the whole stadium, which I thought was just interesting. I get it. I mean, it makes sense. But anyway, they're taking measures, and then all the sanitary things that they've implemented, you know, as far as cleaning, you know. So they're taking proper precaution as much as you can. You know what I'm saying? So
here's the thing that would scare me.
Tell me
if it scares you. So there were rumors, honestly, when it comes to the NFL, and some of the NFL stadiums have allowed fans, some of them have not.
Right.
The Super Bowl obviously will. Knock on wood that, you know, there's no, you know, serious issues where they wouldn't do it. But the rumors are, for that many people, now we're talking 25,000 people, that they can let people out one section at a time. How terrified are you to be the last section? Have to be let out of 25,000 people if that were the case. That would be the thing that would scare me, because I'll tell you this. So I've been to 2 WrestleManias. I've been in back-to-back ones. I've been to 28 and 29, and Miami was okay. We got out of there.
Not for me. It was. I was just going to get to that.
So it was kind of a shit. It was kind of a shit show for us personally, and it sounds like it was for you too, because we went right to the airport. We slept in the air. Like we went right from WrestleMania. We went to the airport. We slept on the floor of the airport for 7 hours until our 6 a.m. flight. And we were fucking gone. We didn't stay to see Brock Lesnar come back.
I didn't either. That's another issue. But we left Monday morning. I don't know what was worse. Maybe.
Well, the next year, MetLife Stadium.
Yeah.
The event, I forget when the event ended. Let's just say 11:15 for the sake of the conversation. We didn't fucking get on the road to go for like an hour and 15 minutes.
Oh.
Like, their stadium is just a shit show.
MetLife is terrible to begin with. I remember getting out of Continental Airlines Arena back in the day was a shit show.
Now you're talking about it might be section by section. So God forbid, Fred, if you go, and I know Miguel will be there, he goes to everyone, but God forbid, man, they go section by section and you get the last section. That would blow.
I mean, it would blow. But at least it'd be section by section at 25,000. Can you imagine section by section at a full stadium?
Yeah.
It'd be that really terrible.
That would
but be. That was the first one that I had gone to. I went to 20 at the Garden, but big stadium, you know, whatever. And I went with my friend Mike, and we had no idea, you know, we didn't even think of that, right? Like, it was going to be hard to get out. So we got out of the stadium fairly quickly, but it was a matter of getting a cab because we didn't get a rental car in my, whatever. And we waited hours to finally, we hopped in some sketchy white van for $50. This guy took like 6 people. We could have died, but at least I would have seen WrestleMania, and then
hey, that's all that matters.
but yeah, it took us hours, and that was the first time I experienced that. And I was like, damn, that was crazy. 29, like we got out of the stadium again fairly quickly to the car, but then getting out of MetLife, I remember, was terrible. Like once we were in the car, and then the worst one was 30 at in New Orleans at Mercedes-Benz. We waited so long for a cab, it wasn't even worth it anymore. We walked all the way from Mercedes-Benz Superdome to our hotel. Now, Mercedes-Benz is in like kind of like the heart of the city. Our hotel, we were staying at a Hilton, or not Hilton, a Marriott that was right by Bourbon Street. It was through the W Travel package.
Okay.
Which was a great hotel. We stayed there for 34 also. And even if I don't do the travel package, I will book that Marriott because it's right by Bourbon Street. And in a cab, it's, I don't know, 10-minute drive. It's not bad at all. But we said we'll walk until we find a cab. Well, we ended up walking the whole time because there were no cabs to be had. That was the worst one. I remember I had my merchandise bags and shit. I was so angry that I was a big boy at the time. I remember I was just like, I went with my friend Adam to that one, and I was yelling at him the whole time like it was his fault that we were walking because I wasn't on board with the whole walking thing. But that was the worst. That was the worst one. But anyway, back to the point. Yeah, I mean, section by section would be hard. But if it makes it safer, I'm willing to do whatever needs to be done. If they told me you need to come in here with a hazmat suit on and tied behind your back, I'd be like, all right, that sounds good to me. Cool.
Well, you're a true Mark, and so
because I am a true Mark. Yes, so
he'd be there with you, and I'm sure if they said,
for sure,
if you got to cut off a limb to go to WrestleMania, you and him would agree on which arm each of you would cut off to make you. I'll cut off my left, you keep your right.
right,
like that. So, one thing I wanted to talk about. So we mentioned WrestleMania being live to fans. What we didn't mention, and what I want to get into next, is that WrestleMania. So last year it made sense. 2 nights. We've been talking about WrestleMania for 2 nights for a long time. Now, it just is too long. And even like the WrestleManias that I went to, 28 and 29, they ended at like 11:30. But now we're going past midnight.
It's even worse now. I mean,
starts at fucking 6 o'clock.
The main event of 35 went on at midnight. So Becky Lynch even made a joke about it on the 24 they did on that particular WrestleMania. WrestleMania was on April 7th. Yeah. Their match was on April 8th, Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. So they're doing 2 nights this year, but WrestleMania's been going 2 days for fucking four WrestleManias so far, it seems like.
Yeah.
No, let me ask you this. I got a couple questions on this. The first one is obviously the obvious one, and I'll answer it first, and then I'll turn to you.
Mm-hmm.
WrestleMania absolutely needs to be 2 nights, in my opinion. You had WrestleMania. Now, I understand last year with COVID, there was nothing else on. If you remember when WrestleMania aired, there was nothing when it comes to the world of sports. And that's why nearly 1 billion people tuned in, not to sit through the event, but through multiple streaming options, even after the pay-per-view.
Yeah.
Almost 1 billion people checked out WrestleMania in one way or another. It was the only thing on. Everybody needed it, and everybody wanted it. This is 2 months into, COVID, and really at the peak of COVID. So,
right, very much so, yeah.
Right. That being said, I think WrestleMania needs to be 2 nights. I mean, you could divide it evenly. You could have a mix of each matches. I'm not saying you necessarily need to have Raw on Saturday, SmackDown on Sunday. You can mix and match. I do think that the 2 champions, the WWE Championship should be on one show. The Universal Championship should be on the other show. Those should close out the shows. I'm a traditionalist at the end of the day. I love the opportunity they gave Becky Lynch, Ronda Rousey, and Charlotte Flair a few years ago. I thought at that moment the women's match deserved to be the main event and deserved to close the show. Now, excuse me, if you remember last year, your boy and AJ Styles closed the show on Saturday.
Right.
And the end of Sunday was Drew McIntyre raising his hand as the new champion, beating Brock Lesnar. My question to you is, should it be 2 nights? You know my opinion, but what's yours?
Okay, so here's my thing. For everything you said and the reality of it, I agree that WrestleMania should be 2 nights for the logistics of it. With that being said, I don't like the actual idea of the 2 nights. Not because I don't think it is too long, because it is, and not that I don't think, like, you know, by the time the main event comes, people are tired, because they are. It's not that. My thing is, when you see WrestleMania, and maybe it's like because I don't like the change, but WrestleMania is WrestleMania. We know a year out, WrestleMania is whatever, April 6th, April 7th. That's the day. That is WrestleMania Sunday. It's almost like, and I mean, it's apples and oranges, but like, and this makes no sense, but just say, I'm just hypothetically, you take, I mean, the Super Bowl, right, is Super Bowl Sunday. It's that day. You all descend upon that one day. It's like Christmas, okay? Now, say they did the first 2 quarters on Saturday night, and then the second 2, now wherever the score is at halftime, and now we're going to play the other 2 quarters Sunday, right? Again, apples and oranges, but you get my point. Nobody would like that. So that's my only thing. I feel like it takes away from the specialness of it. Like, it's not WrestleMania anymore. It's like, but out of necessity, it does need to be 2 nights unless they're going to go back to a shorter format, like cap the 4 hours.
So let me ask you this: assuming, now all we can do is assume, but assume that WrestleMania has gone long over the last couple of years, last year not included,
right?
Has gone long due to the idea that they want to get everybody on the show.
Right.
Now, let's rewind a long time ago. Let's go to WrestleMania 7. You had matches with marquee people. You had, the Mountie against Tito Santana. The match is 1 minute and 21 seconds long. You have, and I'm looking at it now, you have Earthquake versus Greg Valentine, 3 minutes and 14 seconds.
I'm sure that was a classic too.
You have the Legion of Doom. Yeah, technical classic. That was a 4-minute Iron Man match, if you don't remember.
Oh.
You have the Legion of Doom against Power and Glory, 59 seconds. So they still had everybody way back when on the card, but the matches were 1 minute to 5 minutes long. Would you rather it be like that, where you're getting because let's face facts, they want everybody on the card, whether it be the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, whether it be whatever they want to call the women's one, since we're not calling it Fabulous Moolah. They should have just fucking called it the Mae Young Classic or whatever. I think they have one for that. But
yeah, they should. Well, that was a tournament show they had, but the Mae Young tournament, I don't know why not. People have clamored that they should name it after China.
That would be fine too, but whatever, that topic for another day. But whatever they do, they want to get everybody on the card. Right. How do you get everybody on the card on one day? Do you do it like WrestleMania 7? Or in your opinion, is it not the participation trophy that 2020, 2021, and all the years seem to be? Everybody gets a trophy. Do you put the best of the best? You work hard, you had your storylines clicking, you're on the show, you're not.
That's another point of contention I have, because I am not a believer in that everybody should be on the card. If you go back to years, not like that far back, but 10, 15 years ago, not everybody was on the card. The way you got the majority of the people on, whereas before there was the network, they would have the DVD Battle Royal, right? Or Sunday Night Heat, guys would have a match on Sunday Night Heat, whatever. But that's what made WrestleMania special. It was like 8 to 10 matches, all your biggest things, all your biggest stars on this one show. there is the other train of thought. Well, WrestleMania is what makes it massive is that everybody is on it, right? You have 15, 16 matches. Okay, there's that too, but I think it should be an honor to work WrestleMania. Now, granted, there's a difference between working a Fatal 4-Way tag team match or a Battle Royal and being in one of the main matches that's on the poster, right? So you still want to work towards something, but I don't believe that everybody should be on the show. Now, I'm fine with it having the kickoff and having 3 to 4 matches on the kickoff. That's fine with me. You want to do a kickoff for 2 hours, have 4 matches on there, fine. But the main card should be the best of the best. There's a reason, again, I'm going to bring it back to the Super Bowl. It's the 2 best teams in the entire league going at it, right? So WrestleMania should be your top superstars going at it on that card. Not everybody on there. So, I mean, but then again, do I want to see a 1 minute, 2 minute match that means nothing? No, because if you do go back and watch those old WrestleManias, a lot of them were like this, especially WrestleMania 4, the one that was the tournament with, Savage.
Yeah.
I think there was like 15, 16 matches on there or something. And they were all like, none of them meant anything, right? Like nobody remembers anything from that WrestleMania except Savage and DiBiase in the main, right? But, so even 5, I remember, that wasn't a tournament, but I remember 5 also in Atlantic City had like a ton of matches. But again,
the mega powers explode.
You can't, exactly, but everybody remembers that, But I don't think you can do that today because people will shit on it. People don't want to see a 2-minute squash match anymore. Mm-hmm. Back in the day, that was commonplace. People didn't care. People are much more critical of the in-ring product now. You know what I'm saying? That won't get over anymore. Back in the day, nobody questioned it or batted an eye. It was a 2-minute match with Big Boss Man and Hercules or whatever. That's what you got. Okay, next match. Now you have a 2-minute match with, say, I don't know, Ricochet and Shelton Benjamin. I'm just using an example. And they have a 3-minute match. People will be like, well, that was fucking stupid.
Yeah.
Like, that was a waste. That's so, so you can't do that either. So there's really, you have to pick or choose. So it's, if it were up to me, I'd cap it at 4 hours. That's what made WrestleMania special. It was 7 to 11 instead of 7 to 10 or 8 to 10, 8 to 11. They changed it from 8 to 7. 4 hours instead of the 3. So you have your extra hour. It is longer than normal, but that's it. And you have 10 matches. If you could squeeze 12 in, whatever, but the best of the best. And that's it.
Here, I got 2 questions for you.
Yeah.
So, first question, and here's where I'll disagree with you, or at least pose another question to you on this 2-night versus 1 night. So, while you were talking, I was listening, but while you were talking, I wrote down, there are 2 main men's titles. There are 2 main women's titles.
Right.
There are 2 lower men's titles. There are 2 tag teams with championships, and there is a women's tag team champion. So forget about the Cruiserweight champion, forget about the NXT champion. They have their own night anyway. You're looking at 9 titles. Now, if each match is 15 minutes, average, some of them are going to go 30, some of them are going to go 7 or 8. We know that. You're looking at 2 hours and 15 minutes. Now, there's going to be the entrances. There's going to be the pomp and circumstance.
And especially at Mania.
Right. There's going to be, we don't know what they're doing with the Hall of Fame. My assumption is they're going to do it this year because there's live fans. But you're going to have them come out. You're going to do the behind-the-scenes interviews. You're going to do everything. You're looking at 3 hours without a single grudge match. And what I mean by grudge match is just one person versus another person, no title on the line, just based on the storyline. So you're already at 3 hours. So do you devalue a title and not put it on WrestleMania? Or do you limit the amount of grudge matches that are going to be on? It's just, if you're going to keep it at 4 hours, which is your point and my point, if you're going to do one night, it's got to be 4 hours.
Right.
Watch WrestleMania from 6 o'clock to after midnight. I can't imagine what it's like to be there live for that. I've gone to Eagles playoff games, being a big time Eagles fan, you're fucking screaming on the first play of the game, but by the fourth quarter, you're tired. Right. And that's 2.5 hours, maybe 3. We're going on 5 hours. So what do you do? Do you take away a title or do you take away grudge matches?
I mean, and see, that is a problem because, like, by the main event, people are tired.
Yeah.
That's your
seen it multiple times.
You want the people hotter for that than anything else, but it's just
right.
It's hard to.
How dead was Triple H versus Roman Reigns?
Oh, very.
Right?
Very. Because people were so, and don't forget they had seen the Hell in a Cell with Undertaker, right? That's the other thing with WrestleMania. You have seen everything already.
Right.
It's very hard, especially when you're that tired after all of that, to get on your feet. Certain matches pull it off, certain ones don't. Like the girls a couple years ago, it was hard because it was midnight. People were tired. Yeah. People were getting into it, but I feel like you sometimes lose what you could have had if it wasn't so long. Yeah. Right? You would have had more energy if they already hadn't been there for 5-6 hours. So you kind of screw your main event, which is your biggest match, just because of time. So, and then, but back to what you were saying about the titles, I mean, that is another issue. 10, 15 years ago, there wasn't as many titles.
No, you have World Heavyweight, Intercontinental, Tag Team, and you call it a day. And maybe once in a while you'd get a Lunder Blaze. You'd remember she was the women's champ.
Right.
She'd fight Bertha Faye, and we'd call it a night. But it was just the 3 titles.
So that's the other issue, is there are more than double the amount of titles. Right. Like even if you go back to the Attitude Era where they had quite a few titles, but like they weren't nearly as big, right? You had your big one, the title. I the title.
Right.
Intercontinental, Tag Team. Okay, that's your European, your light heavyweight or then cruiserweight, your hardcore. None of those really, like they had matches, but no, but now, you have maybe the same amount of titles or still even more, but like the other ones are the other world title, the other secondary title,
right.
The other tag team title, the other women's and now the women's championship means so much more than it did years ago, right?
100%.
That could be the main event as we, whatever.
Yeah. So, but not only that, it earned being the main event. It was the best storyline at that WrestleMania.
That match, and that was the thing that I loved about that main event. Is it wasn't like the girls just main evented just for the sake of the girls main eventing, right?
Yeah.
It could have done if they wanted to, right? But that match deserved to be the main event. I didn't
100%.
I didn't say, the girls shouldn't main event it. No, that match, they deserved that. They
wanted to see it.
Right. That was the one I wanted to see.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not being sexist or anything, but I never thought that day would honestly come. Right. I just couldn't fathom it 10 years ago. But even once the women's evolution had started, and Sasha and Charlotte and Becky had come up and Bayley and, they made it the women's championship at 32 and all that. And they started doing first ever women's first, I said, okay, they're doing all that. It's awesome. I said, but they'll never main event WrestleMania. Right. I just never, they'll do all this first women's rumble, first Money in the Bank, first Hell in a Cell, they main evented a pay-per-view. I said, but they'll, it'll never main event WrestleMania.
Yeah.
But
who would have thought they'd have their own Royal?
Yeah. I mean, so it's one of those things like, sometimes you don't imagine something could happen and it does naturally. But yeah, like, again, though, going back to the, 2-day thing, it's almost like it needs to be done out of necessity with just the amount of guys and girls they have, the amount of titles they have, and the idea of getting everybody on the card. It's inevitable to do. But the next, which we will get to, but they don't, besides this year, they don't plan on doing that, at least for the next couple of years going forward. I think that they're doing it this year because This way they can have less people in the stadium, but still in the end have the same amount of people they would have had if it was one night, right? So
makes sense.
I think that's why this year they're still sticking with the 2-night thing. Now, that's not to say it won't happen down the road again, but then the 2 following years, it won't be. So I think last year was obviously done out of a necessity, just for the simple fact that you couldn't have so many people in the performance center at one time.
Right.
And I think it was also a smart idea because we know how stale the performance center matches could get. Can you imagine that long of a night that gets tiresome in front of 70,000 fans, in front of nobody with no noise, which is what we at that time? It would have been terrible. So it was a necessity last year. As far as safety with COVID, it's necessity this year. Well, we'll see. We'll see if it does happen. I won't be surprised if it becomes a thing. I mean, New Japan has been doing it with Wrestle Kingdom for the last couple of years now, and people seem to be a fan of that. My only issue with it is that WrestleMania is WrestleMania. It's WrestleMania Sunday. It's the day. It's the Super Bowl. But that's just, old school thinking, that's how I feel. Now, if WrestleMania had always been 2 days, I probably, that's what I know, right? But it's not, so it's different. I'm not a huge fan, but I get it that it needs to be. So,
well, and to your point, and then we'll wrap up. We'll move on to the final topic of the day. But to your point, it's a big commitment for not just the fans that go to the event, because let's face it, and we all know Miguel. He'll hit NXT, he'll hit the Hall of Fame.
Right.
Now you got SmackDown on Friday, so you're hitting that too. You're hitting WrestleMania. You're hitting Monday Night Raw. It's already a 5-night thing. If you're hitting everything from start to finish, now you're adding a second WrestleMania. Now you're going to 6 total days. It's a big commitment, but it's also a big commitment for the fans like myself who host a WrestleMania party every year. I don't go. I can't sit in the stands for 7 hours. Just can't do it.
Right.
My WrestleMania parties, they start with like 15 to 20 people. But by the main event, I'm lucky if I got 1 or 2 people with me. It might just be my wife and me at the end of the night because it's just a long night. It's a big commitment for 2 nights. And, I should have thought of it. I think you're 100% right. The reason why they're doing it is to maximize profit when they would have had an entire arena. Now they could have half and half and make that money. That's 100% the reason. And now that you said that, I don't think it's going to happen going forward after COVID. I'm praying that they listen to Mark's side of the ring and said, at NJF 918, he had the right idea with 2 nights. We're going to keep running with this 2-night thing because it's smart business. But fuck, I think you're right. I think it's 2 nights because of that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is why. But I will say this. I wasn't a huge fan of the idea last year when they did it, again, because of what it is, But a lot of people were very happy that they did that, and we're very happy that they announced this year will also be 2 nights. So you know how the internet can be, and I'll be honest, I've seen more positive response to it than negative. So
the internet, not to get into politics because we don't want to do that on this show, but to your point, we know how the internet could be. This Bernie Sanders thing is fucking hilarious.
Oh,
I don't know if you've been following, but
oh yeah, it's phenomenal. I actually shared one to Miguel today because they're all funny, but of course I love the wrestling ones, right?
Did you see the one where he's sitting on Eddie Guerrero's lowrider and the lowrider?
No, I didn't see that one. Oh, that's great. I saw one with him because you remember the ones from a couple of years ago with the Money in the Bank briefcase with him running, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so it was the one with him sitting, but like holding the Money in the Bank briefcase.
That's funny.
That was funny. And then another one I saw that I popped for because I love that moment is at the poker table in the middle of the ring with DX when they were doing this.
Oh, I didn't see that one.
You didn't see that one? I'll send it to you.
How about Macho Man sitting there with his arm up? And
I saw that one.
Would be as Bernie Sanders sitting there like.
Yep. There's so many. I love the internet, as shitty as it can be and as shitty as the people can be on it. Sometimes they come through, and they have come through with these Bernie Sanders memes for sure.
It's like Chris Christie at the beach all over again. One more thing.
Wait. Did you see the one with him and Christie together
at the beach?
At the beach?
Yeah, that's why I brought it up.
Because that was and I saw one today. I popped for that it was the two of them together. That was
funny.
Yeah.
What do you think of WrestleMania being announced 3 years out? So we used to sit at WrestleMania, and they'd announce the following year where it's going to be.
Yeah.
Now we know for a fact that we're looking at Raymond James Stadium, home to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this year. It was going to be SoFi Stadium, home of the LA Chargers and the LA Rams.
Right.
Well, that's been moved to 2 years away, 3 years away, I guess, technically, because we're going Raymond James Stadium for WrestleMania 37. We're going AT&T Stadium, home to the Dallas Cowboys, in WrestleMania 38, and we're going SoFi for WrestleMania 39. My question to you, first, why did they move SoFi 2 years out, 3 years out? And do you like the idea of knowing where you're going to be for the next 3 years?
So the first part of that question, I was kind of surprised because they didn't officially announce it obviously until Saturday, but I've known for a while that SoFi wasn't going to have WrestleMania this year. And there was a rumor that they would do Raymond James, which I liked because I felt Tampa and Raymond deserved it this year for last year. And I just assumed, okay, they'll push it back. LA wasn't ready yet because they're a little more strict and, whatever. And that 38 will be in LA. I just assumed. Now, granted, they are doing Super Bowl next year, right? In February. So I don't know if that has a big thing to do with it. Now, we do know that obviously Super Bowl is going to be in Tampa and then WrestleMania, will be. So it's the same idea this year, but maybe LA didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
They're a newer stadium. They're learning on the job training. They haven't had a chance to really. I don't believe they've had live fans at SoFi through the season.
Yeah.
They opened up and then didn't even get to work out any kinks because of COVID. So maybe they're like, this is too much at once to do our first Super Bowl and our first WrestleMania in the same year. So I think maybe that's why it got delayed to the following year. I'm assuming that Dallas was in the running. I think from what I understand, Dallas was going to be 39 is what I've gathered because Triple H did an interview about them announcing and talked about how shifting things around and doing what was right for our partners in the cities and things like that. So obviously I think Dallas was scheduled to potentially have it. And then they just moved it. Or maybe the plan was originally, who knows? This is the other factor. Maybe Dallas was always going to be 38, right? When 37 was going to be in LA.
Fair.
So that could be the other side of the coin. 38 was always going to be Dallas, so they kept it there and then did LA the following year. Whatever. So I think that could be the other. It could either be one of two things: Super Bowl and WrestleMania not happening in the same year, or Dallas was already promised 38. So it's one of those two things. I like the idea. I would personally, I'm ridiculous, and I would try to map out and figure out, okay, where can WrestleMania be this year? And I think that city's definitely possible. Yeah. They did the Super Bowl last year. WWE likes to go where the Super Bowl was. They haven't had a WrestleMania in a few years, or they've never had a I would try and figure out, map out in my head where WrestleMania may be. And so it's always nice knowing at least in a year in advance where it's going to be or more. But to know now that, like, okay, I know, although COVID's got me prepared for anything. After last year, I'm prepared for anything happening. But tentatively, I'm going to Tampa this year, Dallas next year, and LA the following year. And there's already rumors that 40 may be in Vegas.
Wow. So that's the final question I wanted to pose to you today, Fred. You are now Fred. You're no longer Fred DeCourt. You are Fred, or DeCourte, as Miguel would say.
Oh, yeah, please.
You are now Fred McMahon. You get to choose where WrestleMania 40 is going to be. Where do you want to see WrestleMania 40?
Well, if it were up to me, and
it is, you're Fred fucking McMahon.
So it's up to me?
Yep. You pick.
It's easy. It's where 30 should have been and where 40 should be, Madison Square Garden.
Madison Square Garden. Okay.
That's where 50 should be, 60, 70, 80, 90. I don't give a shit. Every 10 years.
I like it.
I get it with the stadium. Okay. I wasn't mad that 30 was in New Orleans. It's my favorite city. If WrestleMania was in New Orleans every year, I'd be sound as a pound.
To me, it's like Vegas. It's like I've never been, but it's like I've been to Vegas twice. Like Vegas, it's the same thing. Like you're out. There's shit to do.
I when I went there for 30, I came back like I think I want to move to New Orleans. Now, luckily, I didn't, because I probably wouldn't be doing this podcast with you today because I'm in a halfway house or dead. But nonetheless, I am here, and I just love the city. Now, again, in a COVID world, I don't know how Bourbon Street is, because Bourbon Street pre-COVID can't exist in a COVID world. So I don't know what it's like now. But pre-COVID Bourbon Street was, to me, awesome. And not even just the drinking and the partying and all. There's such a rich history. I love the voodoo stuff to it. Not that I'm a fan of voodoo or I do fucking voodoo, though, but I just like I like the look of it, and the idea of it. And then you got the food, and there's so much culture to that city. I just love New Orleans. But
all I heard in all of that is that you just love getting flash tits. That's all I heard.
Well, obviously that was the prime thing in that city. The first time I was there, I was well behaved the second time I went, but the first time I was there, I was, all about it and all that. And a pair of beads came from them, hit me square in the fucking face. It hurt. I was like, what the fuck was that? I got beads thrown at me, and that wasn't what I wanted, But that was a good time. But so yeah. Anyway, back to your question. MSG's the answer, but I won't be mad with Vegas because I'm waiting for them to go to the I believe it's called the Regent Stadium.
We were talking about where the Raiders play.
Yeah.
Not
Reliant. Reliant is Houston, or now it's the RG, but I think it's called something with an R.
Allegiant.
Allegiant. There you go. Thank you.
Allegiant Stadium. No problem.
Yep. All these damn sponsorships, right?
It's not Maxi Patarina.
I call it SoFi. I think it's actually called Sophie.
I think it is too. I call it SoFi too.
But I call it SoFi. I don't know why. I just
SoFi. I don't know.
Right. They change every so often anyway. So it's like you learn a stadium and then before you know. But if it's not going to be the Garden, which we know it won't be, then I think Vegas is a cool option for 40, just like New Orleans was a cool option for 30.
I agree with you on Madison Square Garden. That'd be the spot. If they can go anywhere else, it'd be cool to go to London or go outside of.
Oh, well, I mean, those poor bastards, man, they deserve it.
They do.
Us schleps should be the ones for 1 year to make that travel and that money, because I tell you what, those people that they spend a fortune, a lot of time to come to WrestleMania, and they are the liveliest, greatest people. I mean, I've often said that going to WrestleMania, one of my favorite things would just be being at Access and in line and like hearing all these people from all around the world talk.
Yeah.
First time it was I don't know if it was 28. It was one of my, and I heard somebody kept referencing, we're in the queue. And I never fucking heard that. I didn't know what they were talking about. And then I come to find out that in like a queue is a line. I never knew that. And they kept talking about the queue, and I was like, oh, whatever. But anyway, so that's one of my favorite things is going to Access, being in line. You know, wait in line for a while. That is a negative part of it. But the positive is like you start talking to people, and you start, where are you from, and how long did it take you to come? What other WrestleManias have you been to? What shows have you been to in London? Oh, were you at that Raw in London? You know, or Manchester? They do, whatever. You start talking, and it's just cool.
Yep.
And they are the liveliest bunch of bastards I've ever seen in my life. Especially like on that Monday Night Raw. Those UK people make that show. Who would have thunk it, right? But
that was the most wild Raw I've ever.
They may have helped that out, but it did happen in the great state of New Jersey.
Sure did. Well, hey guys.
The Raw?
Oh yeah, fuck yeah, I was. The loudest pop. So 2 loudest pops ever. Cena's return at WrestleMania at the Royal Rumble at Madison Square Garden when he comes out 30. And fucking Dolph Ziggler's music, like you got Alberto Del Rio on the ground, and it's like, I'm here to show the world. Like it's
unfucking believable.
I get it. The loudest.
I don't know how to do this. Can you?
Yeah. Hey, there you go. Yeah,
right there.
The show. Yep.
Yeah.
That's fucking awesome. Actually, your whole setup is cool.
Oh, I got one day I'll have to do.
I got fucking Walking Dead.
The tour. It's a walking tour. Yeah. And I have so much shit in the basement that I have a lot set up because I have a pool table in the basement. But right now the basement's a wreck between we're starting to store stuff down there, and then with the Christmas stuff like is all over the place down there, like from taking it out. So it's a mess. But I got a ton of stuff set up downstairs in the basement, plus a ton of new stuff that I don't even have space to put up. I have to rotate things every now and then because I just don't. I have more stuff than I have wall space. So, and my parents aren't about the putting it in the living room and the hallways. I haven't asked, and I've been denied on multiple occasions. So,
well, you got a lot of shit. Oh, once I get my room set up, I got a ton of shit too, including a painting of John Cena that we won when we were at a Comic-Con.
Oh wow!
That John Cena was actually at and signed.
That's cool.
I got some memorabilia and some cool shit too to dust off.
I got one. I'll show you this one cool thing I don't have set up. This I got about a couple months ago. It's nothing crazy, but I haven't found a spot for it in my room. But I found it on. I follow this guy on Instagram that sells like wrestling, just stuff. A lot of it is like you'd be shocked in the market of old, shitty, ripped T-shirts. Like hundreds. Like I've looked at old Undertaker shirts. They're like, oh, that's dope, but it looks like shit. I mean, it looks like $300, $250. Like I'm not spending $250 for a rip. If you got a new Undertaker shirt from 1996 that's not ripped, I'll give you $50 for it. But anyway, so one day he happened to have this on there. I've never seen it. I've always been obsessed with these. And I finally got one. It's a actual ring used mic flag.
Oh, really?
Yep. With the scratch logo.
Oh, that's fucking cool.
Yep. So what I want to do, I've been looking at where I could set it up. Like it's small, but so eventually for this podcast, I want to get a microphone to have my sound better, for lack of a better word, and see if I can somehow get this on there. I think that'd be pretty fucking. Now,
do you keep it regular WWF or do you flip it upside down? And are you part of Miz?
I do like the Miz gimmick. Yeah, right. We'll have to see.
That's awesome.
Anyway, I had just gotten that like a month or two ago, and that's one of my. But most of my stuff is like most of it's like Undertaker plaques, memorabilia, or WrestleMania plaques or memorabilia, stuff like that. But yeah. So anyway, but on that little sidebar there.
Hey, it's all good. I think people, we're the fucking marks.
That's
Mark's
right.
side
That's
of
the
ring.
whole idea of the show.
You like to see how big of marks we are. But
right.
Hey, we're at an hour. I thought we tackled a lot of good stuff. Miguel just texted us asking us how it's going. So now's a good time to kind of wrap up.
Perfect.
Remember, if you're part of the Royal Rumble pool, those picks are coming out. Do you remember? I think it's Sunday, but I don't remember. Do you remember if it's Saturday or Sunday?
It may. He's doing the live on the TruExact Instagram.
Correct.
Yeah. It may be Saturday.
If you're part of it, you're part of the Facebook group where that's announced. So be on the lookout for that.
Yeah.
Check out last week's show, which was a Royal Rumble draft where the two of us, Miguel, Moravik, and Tim, broke down our favorite Royal Rumbles of all time. Check out next week's show, which is going to be the Royal Rumble preview show. Look out for sharp bets and fantasy sets, which could possibly be based on your votes. And honestly, I'm voting for it. I mean, I already did. I voted for it. I'm hoping that it's WrestleMania betting or Royal Rumble betting. When you bet on the Royal Rumble, you can vote at SBFS Show. And if you're interested in sports betting or anything like that, we have a great show, like I mentioned, on the NFC and AFC championship games and where we're betting and everything. And we had a great year at Sharp Bets and Fantasy Sets. We won a lot of money. So if you're a sports bettor and you want to win some money, check that show out as well. So I think I hit everything. Thanks for tuning in. Sorry Miguel couldn't be here. He'll be back next week. But I thank Fred for jumping on, and I think it was a great show. We tackled a lot of stuff. And you got anything else to say?
No, that's it. I'm looking forward to next week's Rumble preview, and it'll be the go home to the Rumble. And just stay tuned and vote for the Rumble for Sharp Bets and Fantasy Sets so that I can maybe make a special appearance on that show along with Miguel.
There you go. Absolutely.
Wrestling.
We'll do some wrestling, some cross promotion. So guys, thank you so much. Take care and stay healthy.